Okay, so good morning, everyone. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to our first ever Tutonic Talk. And this one is going to be on managing anxiety and stress. The reason why we chose this workshop was because obviously we are in the midst of a pandemic, and it's very important for us to not just consider our academic well-being, but also to consider our mental health. So we thought it would be very important to engage in this because we know that a lot of you are stressed, there's a lot of uncertainty. So we're very fortunate to have Gakeema Jefferies to give the talk today. And just a little bit more about her. She says she's, very passionate about students and their careers. She's been a tutor since 2016, and she tutors from grade 6 to grade 12 in different subjects. But what interests her the most is the personality of the students and how that affects their career paths. And she believes, she's a firm believer, that with the correct guidance, all students can be successful in their fields of choice. She's completed a BCom degree in 2018, majoring in industrial psychology and management. And she also completed her honors in industrial psychology last year. And her aim is to pursue a master's in the same field, and she wants to specialize in career and in educational psychology. So I'm sure she will say more information, but just to say, we really encourage you to be as interactive as possible. We want this to be a dialogue. Obviously, Gakeema has the expertise, but it's very important to hear from you guys about what your experiences are, so that you can obviously benefit the most from this talk. So I'll hand over to Gakeema.
Okay, so good morning, everyone, and thank you for that introduction, Elias. So what we are talking today about is anxiety and stress. So during this session, we are going to cover the causes of anxiety and how this also impacts different parts of our lives. We're going to look at different ways to combat anxiety and stress, and then also to get some feedback and experience from you guys. So as much as I'm going to be talking and asking questions and so on, I also want you guys to ask me questions if you feel that you want to comment or anything as we're going along. Okay, so we're starting with the definition of anxiety and stress. So anxiety is a feeling of anticipation as a result of an uncertainty. So anxiety can best be described as a feeling of unease, fear, worry that can affect you mentally, emotionally, physically, and even psychologically. And stress, on the other hand, is a feeling that arises from an event or a thought that makes the person feel nervous or frustrated. So this is the body's response to a challenge. So remember, you also get positive and negative stress. So the one can push you while working under pressure to meet the deadline or so on. And the other is when you cannot think or feel anything and you're just overwhelmed. Okay. So as you can see, the two are very close to each other. The one is an offset to the next, meaning that stress can cause anxiety, and anxiety is an emotional issue which can cause stress. So how do we tell the difference between the positive and the negatives of anxiety and stress? So as you can see the list in front of you, anxiety has negatives and positives. I wanted to make it not only emphasizing the negatives of it, but also the positives for those that feel that it sometimes is a good thing for them. So anxiety, one of the negatives is that it's the first step to stress. Like I said before, the one is an offset of the other. So it if it is prolonged, it becomes unhealthy, and that is when the alert does not make sense anymore. So now, not just feeling normally anxious about something, and now you feel anxious about any small thing. It can lead to depression and also mental breakdown. It can also have physical health implications. You start to hyperventilate, your heart rate is erratic, and so on, and you cannot perform even when you are prepared. So those are the negatives of anxiety. And now looking at the positives of it is that when you are worried about an exam or test that is coming up, it's actually a good thing to feel anxious or stressed about it, because when you start studying, that is somehow relieved. So when you are anxious for certain events, you are more alert to your surroundings. To give you an example, when I started speaking now, my heart rate started increasing. Why? Because I'm speaking and, it's like an oral or presentation that you're doing. But now at the same time, I'm also aware of what is happening around me, because I can hear everyone that's inside, and I know that I need to speak in a certain tone so that you guys can hear me and so on. So it also allows for the adrenaline to kick in to overcome the fear of studying or completing a task or an assignment and so on. Because we know that um, our tasks are sometimes hectic and we don't understand what we're doing, but that also pushes us to actually finish the task. So now looking at stress, so the negatives of stress is that it can cause harm when it exceeds its level. So if you're stressed for long periods of time, that is when it can become very serious, which can result in heart diseases because now your heart is pumping all the time. In excess, it can also weaken the immune system, can result in fatigue, loss of appetite, or even weight gain. Some of us know that when we are stressed, we can't eat or we eat too much. And this also results in a lack of concentration as well as a lack of self esteem. And then the positives of stress, which I think as a student, sometimes you feel that stress is a good thing. It pushes you to finish that task. So I have an assignment that is due on Monday. And when I'm finished with this, I have to go and start with that or complete it, and as well as tomorrow. So that stress, that knowing that it's due then will push me to finish that task. So it also allows you to think on the spot, because now you're stressed and someone asks you something and you have to think of the first thing that comes to mind. It encourages new ideas. This would be when you are sitting in a meeting or something like that, even in group work, when you need to make a decision and this encourages new ideas. It helps to motivate you. This is one of the positive sides of stress, so that you can actually get the thing done. And very importantly, is that it helps when playing sports, because some sports need you to be alert and awake to actually play the game. So now, this is my first question to you guys. Can anyone name and explain a scenario where they were anxious or stressed and that it had a positive effect on the outcome of their task? So anyone can answer.
Anyone can unmute their mics. There should be an option to unmute your mics if you would like to share and answer the question.
Coming back, and I was stressed about it. Yes.
Yeah, just can you start again, because I think you spoke. It was first muted, and then yeah.
Oh, recently I had to finish a video for my dad, and then because he was coming back, but I was stressed about it because my mom was on my case, but I got it done quicker if I was stressed about it. Otherwise, I would have procrastinated.
Okay, that's a very good example. Even if it's something as simple as that, the fact that you felt stressed about it actually pushed you to finish it, and that is what we're trying to portray with the positive stress. So thank you for that. Anyone else want to share? Okay, so we can move on. All right, so what are the causes of anxiety and stress?
Jessica actually wrote something in the chat if you want to read her message.
Okay. Okay. Where is that? Oops. Moving.
Do you want me to read what she said?
Yes, yes, please.
So she said that I was awarded one of my best marks for an essay. I started only 2 days before the deadline. And I was so desperate to find the right information. I ended up looking at so many more sources to meet the right number of references. I ended up exceeding the required number by 10 references.
Oh, wow. Wow. That just shows how stress and anxiety can actually push you to doing something greater. Yeah, thank you for that. Okay, so I think we can move on now, unless there's anyone else that wants to add to that. Okay. So we are looking at what are the causes of anxiety and stress. So I listed a few causes here. The first one being insecure about studies and future. I think this is a very important one, especially for everyone that is at school and at varsity, because we're not sure about what is going to happen in the next few weeks or months to come, especially those that are in matric and those that are finishing primary school, because what happens next year where they have to go to university or even start in high school. So this can actually cause major anxiety and stress. Then I also have stress at work, school, or personal issues. So this is to do with the actual work that you guys are completing. Maybe while you were at school, there was something that happened and that also caused you to feel anxious. An emotional trauma, maybe there was a loss in the family or friends, and this played a big role on you. And this can also cause anxiety and stress. Of course, time management. This is something that most students lack. I say most because I know not everyone, but a big majority or a big percentage of students suffer from not planning correctly, and that has a great impact on their stress levels. Due dates and deadlines is also a big one. Knowing that you need to finish something um, and you don't have maybe the correct resources and so on, and that also plays a role. It can also be genetic. If in your family that anxiety issues is around, that can also cause you to feel that way. Bullying, very important. Doesn't matter how old we are, somehow bullying also plays a big role. And then, of course, environmental factors. So this is circumstances where we live, our working space, if there's disorder, financial issues, all of those things are taken into consideration. And this has a great impact on your anxiety and stress. Okay, so there are so many different factors for anxiety. Although you need to remember that it is normal to actually feel anxious or stressed about something. But there is a fine line between normal anxiety, which is first day of school, when you have to do an oral or write a big exam. However, if that feeling is not contained or, or overcome, and that is when it becomes something a lot more serious. So what makes it more serious is the origin of the anxiety and also the strength of the experience. So I'll give you an example. When you have to do an oral or a speech and you generally feel nervous about speaking in front of people, you want to make sure that you cover the content and also ensure that you pronounce all the words properly. So someone who has a natural flair for public speaking, they would just be able to do it without any issues. And then you have others that don't. So while doing your oral speech, maybe something happens, like your cue cards fall and it's all over the place, and you maybe you go blank even, or you pronounce a word incorrectly, which can happen to anyone, even me. When I do presentations, there's always a word or something that I tend to repeat because I maybe said it wrong. And that's a normal human thing. So because of this event, this is where your anxiety levels can sometimes increase. And it can be seen as an emotional trauma in that sense, because it struck an idea or something in your mind, and now you're already feeling nervous, and now it's even worse. Um, this resulting in you um, feeling that way for way too long. And maybe the class laughs or your friend is looking at you like, what is happening? And this causes you to feel even more anxious. So now, guess what happens the next time you need to do an oral? You have already anticipated that something's going to go wrong, and you are fueling your anxiety, and you already feel like you can't do this. So anxiety can also come from having so much to do and so little time. So the best example that I can actually give you is one of myself. So as a student, I have quite a bit of work to do. So I tutor at university as well, which means that I have students that are contacting me all the time about the assignments, about feedback, and so on. And I have to report to the lecturer that I lecture for. I have to mark the work, I have to record the work, and I also have my own assignments that I have to complete, which is both individual and group work. And then, of course, I have to do my thesis proposal, which is due next week. So many things that I have to juggle, not forgetting that I have to exercise, spend time with the family. So my anxiety kicks in when I have a deadline to meet and my sisters want me to watch something with them. So my family and I are very big A2 fans. So we watch it all together. But sometimes I have to say, no, I can't watch tonight because my degree comes first, which is difficult to actually do because you don't want to disappoint them. But would you rather disappoint them for a program or yourself for not meeting that deadline? So, on a more positive note, I have a friend who works better closer to the due date. So, like I said, our thesis proposal is due next week. Maybe she only decided to start Monday or Wednesday because she feels that she works better under pressure. So she would work through the night. She is able to even pay close attention to detail while she's doing that. Once our assignments are complete, we'll send it to her and she compiles it and everything. And she can work the night before, 2 nights before. And I'm like, no, I can't do that. I need to sleep. But at the end, we still managed to score an A, and she still manages to get an A for her assignment. So her stress pushes her. However, I do feel that so much stress for the body is not always healthy and can have major after effects later on. So, how does anxiety and stress impact on our thoughts and our behavior? Okay, so as you can see, I have a list that I've created on thoughts and behavior. So what happens to your thinking when you're feeling stressed or anxious is that you start to have negative thoughts about yourself. Oh, I'm not good enough. I'm going to fail. I'm not going to pass anything. I'm not clever enough. I don't do this and that. But what this does subconsciously is that you start to believe it. So while you're studying, it's on your mind, it's sitting on the back of your mind, and this fuels your negativity. And this affects your behavior. You're more annoyed, you snap easily, and you struggle to focus. You're also restless. So as you can see on the slide, I've got some of the thoughts is self-doubt, and that is when you are telling yourself that you're not good enough. You feel demotivated, and you tell yourself, "Look, I'm not going to work today because this is how I feel." Some students even have suicidal thoughts, which is very high amongst those at school. You feel like you can't deal anymore. You just want to throw in the towel. You wanting to fail because it's easier to fail, and you tend to give up hope. So those are sometimes the thoughts that cross our minds. And if those are not contained, it can have behavior repercussions. You could either overwhelm in the corner with the boy wanting to eat the other one. Maybe he said something to him because of his stress levels being so high, he wants to eat him. And by underreacting, it could even be that someone has told you something, but you don't react in any way because you are suffering with your own stress. You have angry outbursts or lashing out. This could be while you're busy studying, someone comes into your room and you just explode, but that is because of the immense amount of stress that you are under. Some students would result to substance abuse. Don't do that, guys. That's not good. Rather, just take a break. Social withdrawal, not wanting to interact with anyone. You're just going to stay in your room and just hide away from society. If you're having no energy, as you can see in the bottom corner picture, where most students feel like that. I also feel like that sometimes. Just you don't want to do any work, and it's just like, no, I'm taking a break today. I'm done for today. And then, of course, there's visual signs of irritability, which you can be seen on the face if you're on students' faces, if their eyebrows are all together and they just have this irritable look all the time. So, if you guys could maybe indicate, has any one of you ever reacted negatively due to feeling anxious or stressed? You could send a thumbs up.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank
think
you.
exam
Anyone
time.
else? Exam time. Yeah, that is the biggest time where we feel that way. Has anyone ever lashed out at anyone because of feeling anxiety, anxious, and stressed?
I certainly have at times, and I've regretted it.
Yeah, it's not good because afterwards you feel bad. You feel bad. It's like, ah, no, shouldn't have said that. Shouldn't have done that. Okay, so let's move on. So an interesting fact is that your subconscious mind drives you every day. Your conscious mind puts those thoughts into action. So what I mean by this is that voice that's in the back of your head telling you what to do and how to do it, right? Where your conscious mind is just there simply to put that actions or that thoughts into actions. So what we should try to do is to have a positive subconscious to positively influence your conscious. So your subconscious mind is programmed through the actions and information that it is fed. So how do we do this? It is like having a conversation with yourself. So what do you want to do and how will you achieve it? So I think I'll make mention of how to do that a little bit later on. So always focus on what you want and not what you don't want. This is something that my mom tells me all the time because I remember telling her that when my thesis proposal I submitted and I'm going to get a supervisor, but I told her that I don't want the supervisor. I want someone that is going to, see what I'm seeing. And then she told me, yeah, but now don't say what you don't want, but rather focus on what you do want. So if you want that specific professor, then rather say that you want this one so that they can help you. So this is something not always easy to do, but it's something that it's good to practice. So instead of saying you don't want to fail or you don't want to study so many chapters, rather say, so I'm going to focus on all of these chapters because this is going to make me a greater student. I know that maths is maybe not my strongest area, but by focusing on what I am good at and what I can do, this is going to make me a better student. So we need to just change the way we say something. Okay, so this is student and anxiety stress, which is extremely common. So a student's biggest stress and anxiety comes from poor planning and organizing. So now I'm sure that you are thinking, no, that's not me. I'm not like that. I have all my things in order. But poor planning leads to stress. And by planning, I mean not just having a timetable and sticking to it, actually writing out your dates, knowing what you need to cover, when you need to do it, and how much time that's going to take. Have a thorough plan, a detailed plan that is actually going to help you. So if you know what you need to do and within what time frame, why should you stress? So that's why I'm sitting here and I'm not as stressed because I know I have enough time to finish all the things that I need to. I've marked it down, I've allocated days and time and everything for it. So when I'm finished here, I can go and start because I know that I have enough time to finish it. So as a result of poor planning, you do more under pressure. So you sleep late, which means you get less hours of sleep. Sometimes you tend to skip meals because you're busy working and you skip lunch and then you are so hungry at the end of the day. But remember, you cannot work and you are not fueling your body. You view your body as a car. If there's no petrol in the car, how are you supposed to move? Right? And the cycle continues until you have so much work to do and so little time. And that is when the anxiety attack happens. So it sounds like a long process, as if you were diagnosed and then hospitalized and all of that. But it's not actually like it happens quite fast. I can give you another example is that um, when I'm stressed and my anxiety levels are extremely high, my sinus flares. So it can happen like really quickly. I think last weekend, my sinus flared for 2 days and I didn't understand why. And then I was like, oh, it's because I haven't been allocating enough time for what I had to do. So just think about it. So your exams are coming up and you were busy preparing. You ask your friend, how's the studying going? And they tell you, no, they're nearly done. They must just revise everything. And you only with chapter 5 or chapter 10, and there's still 18 more to go. Or, yeah, you still need to finish 18. And then you start to panic. That means that you may be running late, or that's what you're thinking. But remember, everyone studies differently. And you feel a bit anxious and nervous now about upcoming exam, and that creates a block in your studying. So you start to doubt yourself, causing frustration, and you lash out at someone, whoever has come to check up if you're okay. And this is the effects of your anxiety. But remember, no two ways are the same. So I can give you a tip here already about when studying. I always start from the last chapter that we covered. So I wrote in the week, and I started with the last chapter, which was chapter 21. Why I started with that one is because we finished it, just like that was the recent thing, the last thing that we finished. And I started with that and I worked my way up, because the chapters 1, 2, and 3, we did the beginning of the semester, and it's probably, I maybe forgot what it was about. So by doing it last, it was more fresher in my mind compared to starting with the last chapter, which we did first. It's reverse psychology. You telling your mind that you can do it like this because it's going to stay within your mind. Okay. So now we're looking at the different factors that influence anxiety and stress. So some of the factors that I've written down here is the weather. So the weather really does play a role in how productive you're going to be for that day. I know that when it's cold and gray and all of that, I don't feel like working, because why would you want to work when you can watch a movie under a blanket? So the weather can cause you to feel demotivated, not wanting to do anything, and this could trigger your stress because you cannot seem to work. And this is very common, yet people don't realize it. You know, when the weather is great, you feel great. Your peers can have influence as well. So seeing them excel or them being so organized could set you also into a panic, or it could even motivate you to actually study. So if you're seeing that, okay, so your friend has all the things in order, you can even ask her, so how did you do that? And she's like, no, I just did this and this. And you can come up with your own way to actually manage your time so you're able to study. Then, of course, parents. The reason why I wrote parents here is that they want you to succeed and they want to see you successful. So they are also there on your case to make sure that, are you getting up? Are you studying? What are you doing? Are you using your time effectively? Procrastination. I feel like this is it's a big one, and this has a major influence on how we study and what we do. And this can also increase our stress levels. So some students, they have a tendency to procrastinate, and this can cause anxiety levels to increase. So even though they think, okay, I work well under pressure, but that procrastination period could have been shorter if they actually wanted to finish the task early enough. I said institutions here because depending on what school or what university you go to, there is also pressure added based on the reputation of the place. So if you know that, okay, the school I go to, they always have the A's and B's, it's always in our class or whatever, this adds an extra pressure if you feel like, today is not my day. This can also add to that. Your environment. So this is also where you stay, your living circumstances. This can add extra stress if it's not conducive. So I've been fortunate in that way, is that when I was in high school, my younger two sisters were born. So when it comes to noise, I can work in noise. I struggle sometimes to work in the library at university because it's too quiet for me. So even when I'm in class or when I'm busy studying, there's always noise in the background. And for me, I don't even hear it. So I've even gotten to the habit of when we have functions and I know I have an assignment due or exam that's coming up, I can even take my work with me, and whether we're sitting by the table, eating or doing whatever, I'm still able to focus. So in that, you benefit because you become more tolerable in that way. Financial stability can also influence your anxiety and stress, not knowing how you're going to survive for the next month or so. That can also play a major role on how you are feeling. Okay, so how does anxiety and stress affect your goals and your focus? So you maybe can establish between what you should do and what you must do. So you know that you should be doing one topic, but also you have to do something else. So it's a fight between what is important and what is urgent. Your thinking becomes unclear, or your thoughts is a bit clouded, because now you're sitting at your desk and you know you need to study, but it's like you're writing out something and it's not working. There is no synergy between you and your work. So you struggle to focus on small tasks. Even if you're looking at a question, okay, it's only 3 or 2 question, but you even take longer to answer that one compared to one that is 10 marks. You cannot complete the tasks at hand. You tend to procrastinate and then feel bad for not doing the work. And by procrastinate, I don't only mean you watching a video or something. It can even be just sitting at your desk and you're staring into space because you just can't deal at that time. And even your goals can stress you out because you know that, okay, so I have a goal, I want to be a CEO, to be this, but you don't feel like it at that time. So that can also stress you out. And on the positive side is that stress and anxiety could even push and motivate you to achieving those goals. Okay. So whenever I do presentations or models or whatever, even at university, my group and myself, we like to use movies to illustrate what we mean. And I think people always find it very interesting because how do you relate something as serious as stress and anxiety and psychology and all of those things to something like a movie? So I decided to use the Marvel Avengers. Why? I'm a very big Marvel fan. And I thought, why not use this to explain the next few things? Okay. So the Avengers, their goal is to protect the world, right? Their focus is not to get killed. Okay. So what I designed is a psychological coping mechanism using 4 of the characters. So as you can see, all our characters are on the screen and they all have 3 different mechanisms or traits about them that actually helps them when they are fighting or when they are dealing with something. So my question to you guys is, so with these characters, would you guys overcome your anxiety and stress using their traits and their persona, but within your own environment, your own stressful situation? So anyone can go, or maybe I should go first. So I would choose Captain America, right? Because I'm a big Captain America fan. And I would choose him because he is motivational, he's passionate, and he's always determined to do something. So that's the same with me. When I'm feeling demotivated and I can't work and my stress levels are a bit high, I would sit back and reflect on, okay, so what is it that I'm passionate about? I'm passionate about students and wanting to make a change within the education system and what they do. I tend to be motivational, not only with myself, but with others as well. And I'm determined that I need to get this done so I can get to the next level. So I can give you guys an idea of what one of my goals is, that I want to become the dean of my faculty. But in order to do that, I have to continue studying. And this is a big and scary goal because the path that lies ahead for me is not an easy one. So every day this motivates me to actually, get up and and study and do work and to finish all that I have to. Okay, so would anyone like to share which of these characters would they want to be?
I would say maybe I'm a bit of a mixture between Thor and Captain America.
Okay, why do you say that?
Uh, because I try to motivate myself
Mm.
whenever I'm feeling a bit down, and I always try and make sure that I know what my end goal is and what I'm striving for. And sometimes you just need to talk to yourself and pump yourself up and tell yourself that you can do it. And sometimes I think it's good to maybe rely on your past successes and how you overcame certain challenges. and that's what drives me.
Okay, thank you for that. Maybe that would help someone else to identify character as well, because you're using from both, and that is very good. Anyone else want to share? It's one opportunity where you're allowed to be a superhero, so go for it.
Hamza, do you have any ideas? I know I think you are a Marvel fan. Jessica, maybe you want to share something? You can't. Yeah, Jessica, your mic is not. I don't think it's working. Nafisa, Naima, would you like to share?
Is it working now?
Yes, it's working now. Yeah.
Okay. I would probably say that I'd like to be Thor. I agreed with what you said, Elias, but I think a bad habit I have would probably be not being compassionate enough with myself, as in being maybe too goal driven or too motivated and pushing myself too far, not taking a break when I actually need to, and then falling into those bad habits of procrastination and stuff because I'm actually tired and I've been sitting at my desk too long. So I think it's also, as much as it's time planning and all these positive things you put in place for yourself, also to sometimes step back and say it's okay not to work now. It's okay to take a break.
Yeah. Naima, do you have any thoughts? I know you've sort of spoken about this a lot in the past. Naima Ali. Or anyone else? Rifka, would you like to say anything? Or Nafisa? Because I know when I used to speak to you guys, I know you said that, it's obviously a lot of you guys are matriculants, so there's undoubtedly a lot of stress. So I think it's important to maybe to hear from you guys, like how would you guys approach or consider yourselves in terms of which character suits you best. So what would you guys say? Rifka, I see you've unmuted your mic.
Okay, I think Captain America, because to be able to study, I need to have the motivation. I can't study if I don't feel interested in the subject, or like I'm not in the right mindset, or even like if it's just okay, for example, if you're in class and the subject just doesn't seem so interesting back then I'm not motivated to do it. So I need to have the passion for the subject and then the motivation for it. But then again, I also have to I want to do occupational therapy and biopsychological content, but you need bio, right? So to me, it's like I need to study this because I want to do that. So I guess what's this other person's name? What's his Thor? Thor also. Okay.
Thank you for that. Yeah, thank you for that. I like what you said about knowing, what career you want to do. And in order to do that, you need to be passionate about it and the content must be interesting. That is really important. Okay, thank you for everyone that added to my little psychological coping mechanism. I hope that it actually made sense and that it was useful. Okay, so we can move on. Okay, so like I said, if your goals do not scare you, they are not big enough. So this is a very cliche quote, but there's a lot of truth in it. Okay, So the effect of COVID-19 and lockdown on stress and anxiety. So this is something that is quite current and is happening like right now. And I know that everyone feels stressed and you're not sure of what the future holds. So I don't want to spend too much time on it, but just to cover a little bit of it. So the coronavirus has stirred the world in many ways, especially those that are living with anxiety disorders and in different mental states. So people have the tendency to brush off anxiety, saying, no, it's a phase, you can get over it, and it's just now during school or whatever it is. But those people, they then tend to continue suffering without any assistance, right? So the effects of COVID-19 and lockdown, I listed negatives and positives. So one of the biggest effects that it's having is the level of uncertainty, especially those that are in matric and those that are at school. You're not sure what is going to happen next year. You don't know what you need to do. One thing you are busy doing is you're actually going through your curriculum, you are much you can. So when they say, look, everything is fine and everything's safe again, your future is secure. There, of course, then there is fear of the virus because it is new and it's different. So fear of the unknown is a very big one. Social separation. Remember, when you're at school, you're interacting with different people. You have your friends, you have your teachers, and that fuels the social need of a person. I don't know if you guys know the game Sims, right? So Sims has different elements that has to be filled. So like you need to eat, your hygiene has to be at a certain level. And one of the aspects is the social part. So you'll see that if that part is low, you have to invite the sim over and or speak to someone on the phone just so that there is more interaction and not just with the people in your home. Cabin fever, this is something that I tend to suffer from quite often, is I don't like staying at home for too long. I need to get out and just do something else. So even if my mom goes to the shop just to get the daily essentials or whatever, I'll go with so that I can be out of the home environment. Positives on the other hand is that you are able to identify triggers for your anxiety and stress. So now being at home, there's not that same interaction and there's not that same feeling of going to school and being with other people. So now you can actually say, okay, so when I used to feel like this is because of something else. You're able to identify triggers within yourself. Then there's less rushing because those that play sport, those that have extra classes after school, getting up early, getting to school, all of those things, that is now taken away. So you have your own time and you can do whatever you need to within that time. Then, of course, introspection, which I think a lot of people have been doing during this time, is okay, so, what do I want to achieve? Where do I see myself in the next few years? What are my goals? Let me revisit them. Let me look at my career path. What am I sure? I know even I did that and I changed quite a bit of things along the way. And then most importantly, and this came from my sister, is that you have the opportunity to pay your sleep debt. So as a university student, you know that you don't sleep as much because sometimes you have class on a Saturday, you have things to do, and you sleep very little. So you either sleep late in the evening or you sleep late the next morning and you're staying up again that evening. So it's like your cycle is out of balance. So during this time, you're able to actually sleep your required number of hours. Okay, so this is now some coping ideas that we came up with just to make it easier with being at home and also coping with the anxiety and stress levels. Okay, so as you can see, this is different things, different pictures that I have here, and this is what I would have loved to be doing during this time. There is so much work, and because we are at home, the university sends more assignments and more work almost every second week. So I would have loved to get my exercise routine up and running. I would have loved to just sit and watch my favorite movies. I did spend a lot of time cooking though. and sleeping. Yeah, and I would have loved to have done more meditation during this time, but I think it's something I should still consider. So this is just a list of some of the things that I've put together. So exercise is very important as it helps to release stress and get that energy going. To increase your blood flow so that you're able to do work and you're feeling a certain way. And now, okay, you're ready to work because the good hormones that are produced when you're doing exercise helps with focus and actually doing what you have to. Yoga meditation helps with to center yourself. So if it means that you're sitting on your patio or in the garden and actually just listening to the birds around you and all the different sounds, and then just to focus and center yourself. Your breathing, very important. And this is also a great time to reflect on your goals. So sitting there and just listening to your surroundings will help to realign what you want to do, what you have to do. And then also it helps to set out for the next set of goals and things. Setting boundaries. So this would be to make time for everything and everyone. So making time for yourself, me time is very important, whether you are just watching a movie by yourself, reading a magazine, or just taking a walk. Just make sure that you spend time with yourself. It's very important. Spending time with others, so family and friends, that's also very important. Maybe not right now, I don't know how everyone does the family and friends time. Spending time on your studies, that's very important. And then of course, just see also, watching movies on social media. Allocate time for all of that. If it means in the morning, this is the first thing you're going to do, and then you can do something else, but make sure that you at least do 2 or 3 of it. Well balanced. Okay. That interaction, whether it's with yourself or others, helps to reduce your anxiety and stress. Then I've got time management and planning. So, like I've said before, knowing what you need to do and the time allocated really does help. You plan time, you for the one thing with good preparation, it does decrease stress level. So that's something that I know is preached a lot, especially to grade 11 and grade 12. I know you need to plan, you need to have time there to do those things. But if you don't have the tools to actually put that together, then it's not going to work. You can have timetable just drawn up and it's there on the fridge or on your cupboard. But if you don't go through it or actually help someone helps you to get through it, then it's just going to be another thing that you've done and you haven't followed through with it. Also, very important is that these type of foods are rich in vitamins and minerals you actually need. And the better fuel is that you put inside your body, the better that you can, the outcome will be, right? So as much as junk food is easy and convenient, it doesn't always give you the nutrients you need. It's always, especially when you are stressed, because it's fatty foods, or it's a compressed meal, and all of those things, and now you just eat it, and it's like cardboard, and it's gone. And you just by having healthier foods and snacks, it helps. One of the things that I would recommend is popcorn. I love popcorn and it's very healthy. So last thing is motivational talks and videos. So by watching a motivational video, reading motivational, it does this makes that watch it, and maybe one line of that actually and encourages you to work and I've done we needed just a momentum to actually start working, and I was looking for videos, and by watching just the first few minutes of it, something triggered and I'm like, okay, I need to watch this what happens. And then of course it helps to reduce anxiety and stress. So before I thought this, I could have taken one.
Gakeema?
Someone speak?
Yeah, I think the audio is a little bit, I think it's just some of the students are struggling to hear. I'm not sure if it's, can you just maybe just try speaking again? I just want to see if maybe if it's, yeah, I think she's going to rejoin. Sorry for that, guys. Also just wanted to add, maybe while Gakeema is joining, she mentioned that one of the coping mechanisms is exercise. Did you guys know that exercise also helps with your memory? There are studies that have shown that cardiovascular exercise actually grows new neurons in your brain. It builds new neurons. And of course, it's those neurons that you use to remember things. So if you're making more brain cells, you have more capacity to remember things. So exercise also has benefits to your memorization capabilities. So I thought that was quite cool. Ima, I see your mic is.
Oh, sorry.
Better now.
Let's just we just try. Maybe just try speaking again. Let's see if the sound is a bit better.
Hello.
Yeah.
Is it working? Because it picked me up twice. So
Yeah, I think it sounds better now. It's just. Have you shared your screen? Are you on the PowerPoint?
Okay. So
Yeah, I kicked her again. I think maybe the internet connection is not so great. Yeah, but while she rejoins, that's exercise does grow new brain cells. So next week we are also going to be doing a talk on memorization and long-term learning. So I will speak more about that next week. But maybe, yeah, I mean, there's obviously a few of you here. Is there anything that you guys would like to say in the meanwhile? What do you guys think has been most difficult about being in lockdown and being a student? What do you think the most difficult part has been for you?
Finding the motivation to study.
Yeah. Hamza, I saw your mic was unmuted. Zahra, your mic was unmuted. I saw. Would you like to say something? Or
I don't mind saying something if you don't mind me jumping in.
sure, Jesse.
A lot of other students that I've spoken to, because I've been helping with some of the online learning things for Varsity, is that there's, the content hasn't changed, but the way that it needs to be absorbed or studied or engaged with has changed. And I think it's people trying to, we're very used to where I do work and where I study is at university and school. That's the majority of my work things, and then at home is revision. But now it's trying to use one environment and make it multiple things. This is where I study. This is not just studying. I'm getting my majority of my work done. I'm teaching myself here. People who are having Zoom classes, that's where school is happening for me, and I think it's just, as I say, trying to blend those multiple environments. Also, as you said, this is where I need to exercise now until those restrictions were changed. This is where I need to and having other responsibilities that haven't changed, like family commitments or chores at home that have to be done. And I think that's something that I've also experienced. I said to someone, what's changed is online learning. It's not this, what I used to do at home, that hasn't changed, but it's trying to shove everything into the same place. So I think that's definitely
Thanks for that, Jessica.
something
Hakeem, maybe do you want to turn off the video, because then that might make it easier with the data consumption. I think that might be a better option.
can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I think
Better.
I think that you answered the question because my next question was, would anyone like to share what they have been doing to cope with being at home and how it has helped them grow as an individual?
I don't mind sharing. Something that I've been doing, it might be a bit strange. I've tried to learn something new every day that is not related to what I'm studying.
Oh, wow. Okay,
So I've
that
set
is
aside just
interesting.
to, I definitely relate to that thing of stuff has to be interesting. And unfortunately, I think at university and school, you will always be in a situation where something isn't that interesting, you know, or it isn't that cool or whatever. So I've tried to also use that to set, okay, if we finish section off and learn your interesting thing today that you want to learn, kind of as a reward system. And I found that that's also been helpful, and also not just to stay motivated, but actually for adult things like how do you pay your taxes? I went to find out. How do you submit a tax return? Because we don't learn that at school. So little things like that have also been very helpful, practical stuff, or how to bake something or origami or whatever. So I've been doing stuff like that.
Okay, that's very interesting. So learning new skills also. That is very interesting. That's very cool. Okay, anyone else want to add on?
Nafisa said some of them can also type. So Nafisa said she gets her mind off things by video calling her friends and talking to them for hours.
For me, it's painting because it's very therapeutic for me.
Okay, did you say painting? I think so. Okay. Can everyone still hear me?
And Nafisa also said that she bakes, and Zato says she likes cooking. So I've seen like the females like, you know, doing things, baking, cooking.
Yeah.
Those
It's
things that
because
they enjoy.
I think it's also because we have the time to actually do it, and it's quite rewarding when the dish comes out the way you expected it to. So it's quite great. Okay. Okay, so we are nearly finished. So what I have next is that the best way to cope with anxiety and stress is to speak to someone. So speak to someone who is a specialist in the field that can understand people as well as their personalities, because remember, everyone is different, and that the advice you are given of what to do is tailored to your level of anxiety, because not everyone's is the same. And then remember that you and your anxiety share a common goal. So, but you have different opinions as to how to go about achieving that goal. So instead of just getting rid of the anxiety completely, try to understand it. So ask your anxiety, what is it that you are scared of? And it might just give you the answer and the help that you need. So it's a conversation that you have to have with your mind. That way, your subconscious and conscious can act as one, and that is only for your benefit. So that is the end of my talk. If you guys want more information, you are allowed to contact me on our Telegram platform.
Are there any other questions that you guys might have? I think it's important to have a discussion. And obviously, you know, we invited Gakeema to talk to the students, but I know you guys also have your own experiences that you never know, somebody else might be feeling the same thing. You just haven't said it. Zenith, I haven't heard anything from you yet. Is there anything that you would like to share? Or Tamia, Nadia, Bulkis, is there anything that you guys would like to share?
I just want to say, in my experience and so long of being at varsity and studying so much, I think that it's also important just to be patient with yourself and be conscious of not comparing to other people. But this is how Ilias works and it works for him. I must do that, you know. I think it's just important to be honest with yourself and realistic as well. I need more time to study and that's okay, you know. And I think also to remember that sometimes people are not entirely honest about how much they study. It's something that I've picked up over the years of, oh no, I didn't study that much. And then they seem to do so well. And lo and behold, they studied way longer than they said they did. So I think it's also just, you know, get the input from other people, but also rather focus on yourself and where your limits are and be realistic about what you can do, and to understand that everyone's in a different situation. But yeah, thank you very much for this. I really, really enjoyed it. Appreciate you taking this time.
There's another question which Gakeema, maybe you want to address, where it says, how do you deal with the constant uncertainty, like not knowing where we're heading towards? That was the question.
Okay, so unfortunately, uncertainty is very big at the moment, right? Because we're not sure about school, varsity, all of those things. But remember, life is uncertain. We are busy with one thing at the moment, because right now we're sitting in this session, but we're not sure of what we're going to do in an hour or two's time. Yes, we have an idea of, okay, so I'm going to make lunch, I'm going to do this and that and that. But life is uncertain. It throws you with curveballs all the time. And it's basically to see how well are you going to cope with that is being thrown at you. Sometimes your patience is tested. Sometimes your tolerance levels are tested. All of those different things. So it is uncertain. And I understand that where you not sure whether you're coming or going. But what you need to remember is be mindful of the place that you are at the moment. So sitting here in this session, this is what you're doing at the moment. So you focus your energy on that, because I know it's easy to preempt and just like, okay, so the session is going to be like this, and this is what I need to do, and all of those things. But what you're doing is you're ready by the last thing that you need to do. This is now mentally, but your body can only go as far as the next step. So instead of already being there, because you're already tiring yourself out by doing that, so just come back to the present and focus on what you need to do right in front of you. I hope that makes a little bit more sense. Just see the next question. What would you do in a case where you have no one to talk to or you just listen? Okay. Well, that's why I suggested that I made the idea or whatever. Is that I'm more than willing to listen and to hear what you have to say. So I can give you maybe another example. Is there I have many of the people in my class, some of my classmates that I don't even maybe know them personally, but I know how they are feeling. So sometimes I would just message them, find out how they are doing, and in that they can tell me, okay, so this is what I do and whatever, and I would just listen to what they have to say. So if you don't have anyone else that is close to you that can actually assist you, then I'm here to assist. How can you deal with procrastination? In my previous talk, I actually said that you have to schedule your procrastination in with the rest of your work. Sounds really funny because how do you do that? But it means that, okay, so you have what does it say here? Especially because there's no structure. Okay, so maybe if I can give an example of how you are planning your day. So it is Saturday, and some people they work on a Saturday or they don't work on a Saturday or whatever. But if you are starting with Monday's week and you know you have X, Y, and Z to complete, and you know that your procrastination is normally an hour or 2 hours before you start doing something, actually put it in onto your timetable, onto your to-do list, right? What it does is, hopefully, I think it might do that, is psychologically what happens is your brain is like, okay, so you're going to procrastinate for 2 hours and then you're going to start working. So what happens is you telling the brain that, listen, we're only going to work, we're only going to do this, we're going to watch this, or we're only going to browse on social media for that specific time, and then we're going to start working. So you are programming your mind in such a way that it has to come out of your routine, if that makes sense. So in the morning, it would mean that you take 3 hours before you sit down. That counts already as your procrastination. So slot it in the morning. Know that, okay, first I need to go water my plants outside. I need to go look where the cat or dog is, whatever. And all of those then count as that. And before you sit down, even before you sit down, if it means that you sit and for 20 minutes you're sitting there looking outside, whatever the case is, even include that in your time slot. So schedule your procrastination in. Don't make it as if it's a negative. Rather look at it as it's part of you. Okay. Is there any other questions?
Yeah, so I think that's the last of the questions. So I think just to, from my side on behalf, oh, okay, I see there's one more question.
So we shouldn't try and cut out things that we waste our time on, like social media. No, I wouldn't say cut it out completely. If it means that during the time working, or if you do spend 20 minutes browsing through your phone or whatever, do not cut it out completely, because remember, we are at home and we tend to lose motivation quite quickly because we're at home. Remember, the TV is there. You can anytime go take a nap. The fridge is available. So with all of those things, take all of that into consideration and don't like, no, I can't look at my phone. Even I do it where I finish a section and then I'm like, okay, so what now? Then I look at my phone and go through people's statuses or whatever. So include that when you're busy working. Don't try and remove it completely, because we are in an abnormal situation. So try to get as normal as what you can.
Any other questions? Yeah, so I think, okay. Yeah, okay. So yeah, just from our side on behalf of Tutonic, I think it's just appropriate for us to say thank you to Gakeema for a really excellent talk. I'm sure we can all agree that it's been incredibly insightful. And Tutonic always believes, obviously we are offering a maths tuition service, but it's not just about the academics that comprises the student experience. There's so many other factors that you have to consider, and that's the main reason why we wanted to have this talk. And I think that we're really grateful that Gakeema has offered, even beyond this talk, to reach out to the students, so that maybe there's another question that you might have in the future. I'm sure she will be more than happy to assist you, and she'll be on that group, so you can message her directly. And yeah, we're just really grateful. So thank you for your time, and thank you to all of you who have attended. This is the first of our Tutonic Talks. Next week, we are going to be having a talk on study methods, long-term learning. So hopefully we'll see all of you there, and please encourage your friends to come to that talk. So enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see all of you next week.